Hi all beautiful people of Mzansi and all over the world. Welcome to this part 2 of my interview with veteran hit producer, Gabi Le Roux. Gabi, let's get into the subject of the early development of Kwaito. There is a widely accepted view that, along with Pantsula and other South African genres, slowed down house music also played a role in that unique sound of Kwaito. Were you also influenced by house music in your early Kwaito years?
Yes, I met a guy by the name of Tim White, who most South African music lovers will know for his role in bringing house music into South Africa. He was working with the likes of Vinnie Da Vinci and Christos, and he also knew Arthur Mafokate quite well already at that stage. You know, he would show me, you know, he would slow a house tempo or a house beat down, or some of the separates that he had on vinyl, he would slow it down to the tempo of that time. So when I started collaborating with him, I tried a lot of the elements that I'd been exposed to on my tours. That sort of, applying what I'd learned and what I've become so fond of as a composer and a musician. And then we realized, listen, man, we're developing a sound that's really, really kicking. We started, putting this stuff out and making cassettes and taking it out on a Saturday morning in a big cardboard box and selling it to the general dealers. And the stuff would start getting played in the clubs and in the taverns and everywhere. And we realized, hey, listen, man, we're setting ourselves up here with a sound that probably can make an impact, along with all the other music of the time. Kwaito really was kicking. It was the language of the time, and we felt we're right in there with our own brand of this. So it wasn't as if it was contrived. Again, it's just a natural progression. I was really fond of this opportunity to be able to apply this fondness and this affinity that I had naturally for African music and African contemporary music, As Tim and I were continuing to experiment with, house and literally African house or Afro house, I started making more Kwaito-oriented beats, and Tim inspired me and motivated me to do more of that as well, So we were really in cahoots of pursuing this new sound that we were developing.
That's so cool, Gabi. So, how did you and Tim end up meeting the guys from Chiskop and then start working with them?
We decided, look, there's all these Kwaito groups popping up all over the place, and some really, really mediocre and average, and others were really, really unique because, the truly creative ones were making some outstanding music. There were so many, too many to mention. I don't want to mention some of them now, not the others. But Tim then ended up phoning Arthur and saying to Arthur, look, Arthur, you've got all these Kwaito groups hanging around your studio and queuing up and hucking you to be recorded. And many of them were dancers as well. In the case of Chiskop, they were all gymnasts at school, and they were very much into sort of dancing and African dance moves and Pantsula and break dance as well. They were great break dancers, spinning on their heads and doing all sorts of acrobatic things. But also they were an aspiring Kwaito group. They were calling themselves Chiskop, and they would go with Arthur on his shows and be his dancers and that, So Arthur said, well, look, I've got this group, Chiskop. I haven't really worked with them yet as Kwaito artists. Why don't you try them, And so that's how we were introduced to Chiskop. We did the first album, Akushesh, and that had the big hit Klema. Sugia Klema on it, and that just blew up. It almost became platinum in a very, very quick time. And then we realized, wow, man, we were onto something here.
So, even since those early days of Chiskop, you worked very closely with Mandoza, didn't you? How did that come about?
So by the second Chiskop album, Relax, Tim flew Mandoza down to me in Cape Town. Mandoza came and stayed with Deborah and I in Cape Town, and we then sort of experimented with the sound as it developed more and more since the first album. By that time we were already digging new ground, and he loved the Cape Town environment, the change of scenery from Joburg, and then definitely also he was very attracted to this new and unique brand of Kwaito music that I was able to present to him. He reveled in it. And then, you know, for me as well, as a creative, to have this dynamic young African guy in studio and collaborating was such an opportunity to express myself at the time. So since then, you know, we became inseparable. The relationship really started intensifying from that second Chiskop album. And, you know, we just had that chemistry from that moment on.
Well, the historic rise of Chiskop as a truly iconic Kwaito group has always been acknowledged and well celebrated, but please take us now to the decision for Mandoza to be launched as a solo artist. What made him the first one to be chosen?
While we were working with Chiskop, you know, since the Akushesh album, we did quite a few other albums after that, before we even did Mandoza's first solo album. And we had some big hits on those as well, the likes of Relax, Siyafuna Abantwana, you know, Dlala Mlungu. I was a Mlungu, that was Dlala Ling, and quite a few others. And then we always had the idea that we were going to launch each of these Chiskop members also on a solo path. And it was no question, Mandoza was always the one we felt had the most obvious X factor to be able to, you know, to crack it as a solo artist. They were always into music when they were still youngsters at school, and expressing themselves, experimenting with hip hop and that. I know Mandoza was featured on Jam Alley at the time, and he mimicked this crisscross track, and the people just went crazy. So we realized that there was definitely a solo artist in the making there. So came 1999. We decided, we worked with Vusi Leo and them at CCP and decided this is the time we're going to launch Mandoza's first solo album, 925 Zola South, with the single Uzoitola Ganjan Hlele Koneni. And that was it. The first one was born.
How exciting is our Kwaito history? Wow! And that's how we come to the end of part 2. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you all soon with part 3. Goodbye from Kwaito land.
Forever.